And then to your left and behind you, which you can't see, but we'll show you later on, in fact, we'll be on it, Little Round Top and Cemetery Ridge. Okay, so remember, Culp's Hill, Cemetery Hill, Cemetery Ridge, and Little Round Top. So keep this area in mind because it's going to come into play during the battle. Now we're going to drive into the town. One of the buildings that was here at the time is a little red brick one right here on your right. Statue of the lady standing in front of it, that's Mary Virginia Wade. She is the only civilian from the town of Gettysburg to die during the 3 days of the battle. So Jenny Wade was inside of that house, and on the morning of the 3rd, a stray bullet goes through not only the front door, went through an interior door and struck her in the middle of the back. And she died instantly. The only civilian from the town to die during the 3 days of the battle. And look at where she was. Inside a brick house behind 2 wooden doors. Just a stray bullet. Now as we drive through the town, what you want to look for will be some of the buildings have little bronze plaques on them right by the front doors. And they say Civil War building on it, July 1863. So the buildings that are here today and were here in 1863 are going to have the bronze plaques on them. So look for those buildings. Okay, so Gettysburg had 7 churches, 2 banks, 4 hotels, even had 3 newspapers, 2 Republican and Democratic newspapers, carriage making businesses, tanneries, and even had brickyards where they made the bricks. So Gettysburg was really a nice sized town. If you guys look over here on the right, we're going to go 3/4 way around the circle, but if you look on the right here, see this red brick building right here on your right? It's kind of a bright red brick one. That's the house that Abraham Lincoln slept in the night before he gives what we call the Gettysburg Address. You guys know what the Gettysburg Address is, right? Okay. Now, when the battle was over, the dead we buried out on the field where they fell. They had no place to put the dead, so they just buried them out there in the fields. And they want to remove the Union bodies as time goes on from the shallow graves out on the field and give them a decent burial. So they buy some land, the governor of Pennsylvania, up on Cemetery Hill. Now they want to have a ceremony to dedicate and consecrate the land. And the ceremony will be November 19th, 1863. You know, a couple months after the battle. And they invite Lincoln to Gettysburg to say a few appropriate remarks. So Lincoln arrives on November 18th by train. He doesn't want to miss anything. And he stays overnight in the Wills house with David Wills and his wife. Mrs. Wills cooked a meal for him, and when Lincoln was finished eating his supper, he asked David Wills for some paper. And Wills will give Lincoln several sheets of gray paper. And Lincoln goes back upstairs. The next day, when Lincoln stood on the platform in the cemetery and he gave the speech, the Gettysburg Address, you know, 7 years ago, the front page was on White House stationery. The second page was on the gray paper the owner of the house gave him. So what do we know about the Gettysburg Address? Lincoln worked on it and finished it right there inside the Wills house the night before. Boy, talk about waiting to the last minute to do your homework, guys, right? Yeah. You guys get in trouble for that at all? Waiting for the last minute to do your homework? Come on, be honest. Now you can tell your parents, look at what Lincoln did and how well it turned out for him, right? Try it next time, see if you get away with it, right? Okay, so Gettysburg National Military Park today. 6,500 acres in the battlefield. There's over 30 miles of park roads and well over 1,700 monuments, markers, and plaques here at Gettysburg. So it's probably one of the most monumental places on the face of the earth, Gettysburg National Military Park. And we have all kinds of monuments here. You know, we'll talk about some and point them out to you as you're going along. Okay guys, now, there are some places we're going to get off the bus without a doubt. You know, Little Round Top especially, we'll get on. Make sure you look around. But we take a couple of minutes here and we want to get the battle started. Because this is where the Battle of Gettysburg starts, right here in these fields that we're sitting in. But the first thing we have to understand is why was the Confederate Army in Pennsylvania to begin with in 1863? This is enemy territory for them, isn't it? Right? And to understand why it was here, we have to look at a couple of things. Where are all of the battles being fought in 1861 and 1862, prior to Gettysburg? Does anybody know? In the South, right, being fought in the South. The other thing we have to look at is the size of the armies. Confederate Army here at Gettysburg, 75,000 soldiers, Army of Northern Virginia. Union Army here at Gettysburg, 97,000 soldiers, Army of the Potomac. What most people don't think about when they think about armies in those days are the horses. You know, it's estimated that the Confederate Army alone had somewhere around 30,000 horses here at Gettysburg. And the Union Army had around 42,000 horses. Remember, every wagon, every piece of artillery is pulled by horses in those days, right? Officers ride them. If you're an officer, can you ride the same horse every day? No, guys like Robert E. Lee had 5, General Meade had 4. Cavalry, the scouts, they rode horses, they have to have extra. So take an army of 97,000 soldiers and 42,000 horses and put it in one area for 2 days. What's it going to do to the food supply in that area? It's going to consume it, isn't it? What do you guys have? 3 buses, right? Imagine what happens when the 3 buses pull into McDonald's for lunch, right? Okay? So, in the first 2 years, these huge armies are maneuvering around the South fighting the battles. What are they doing to the food supply in the South? They're consuming it, right? Good. Remember, there is more than one Union and there is more than one Confederate Army fighting in the Civil War. So by 1863, it has gotten so bad in the South for food that the daily ration for a Confederate soldier in Robert E. Lee's army was the equivalent of a quarter pound of meat a day. Now when I say a quarter pound of meat, what's the first thing you guys think about? A quarter pounder at McDonald's, right? Can you imagine that's all you're eating each day? So beginning of June, Lee and his army is encamped below Washington, D.C. in Virginia behind me. The South is behind me. And Lee's thinking, where is there an area that there's enough food to feed an army of that size? What he's thinking about is South Central Pennsylvania. Haven't been any battles fought in this area, and he's fairly certain that the farms and the towns are just loaded down with supplies. They are here for his taking. So beginning of June, he starts to move north, looking for food. By the end of June, he enters Pennsylvania west to Gettysburg, over there on your right. He's on the other side of the Appalachian Mountains. You see over there about 8 miles away. Now I know to you guys those don't look like mountains, but that's the best we can do in Pennsylvania, okay? Your mountains will look like that in about another 50,000 years, okay? So when he enters Pennsylvania, then he spreads his army out through the area in order to facilitate the taking of supplies. And when I say the taking of supplies, he's really stealing them, right? He's just taking everything. So by the end of June of 1863, part of Lee's army is west of Gettysburg near the mountains. Another part is continued north behind you. And a third part, General Jubal Early's men, walked down the road right there behind you, and on June 26th, walked right into the town of Gettysburg. Stayed overnight, took what they wanted. The next day they headed east, which is to your left. Lee has no intention of staying in this area. He's passing through the area. What Lee is heading for, and he'd like to try to capture, is Harrisburg, the capital. And that's about 35 miles to the northeast. So he's passing through the area, heading for Harrisburg, but the important thing is, where is Lee's army the day before the Battle of Gettysburg? East, north, and west of the town. They're on 3 sides, right? That's very important to the outcome on July 1st. Now the Union Army, General Meade in command. Meade and the Union armies encamped north of Washington, D.C. and Maryland behind me. Finds out the Confederates moved into Pennsylvania. So he takes his army and he starts to move north looking for the Confederate army. Wants to drive them back into Virginia, get them out of Pennsylvania. And on the morning of July 1st, 1863, if you picture the Union Army moving into Pennsylvania looking for the Confederates, they ran into them in the fields out here west of Gettysburg. The Battle of Gettysburg is an accidental meeting. Nobody ever planned the battle. The thing that brings on the battle, if you guys look at maps today of the Gettysburg area, the first thing you notice, there are 10 roads that come into Gettysburg like spokes on a wagon wheel. If you traveled through the area, which town did you have to go through? Gettysburg. And this road structure drew these two armies together, and they ran at each other right out here in these fields. The fighting on the first day goes on all day right here where we're sitting on the bus. Picture a Union infantry position, 2 rows of men shoulder to shoulder, facing that way, Confederates coming up the slope. Fighting extends north of town behind you. What is the advantage the Confederates will have, though, on the first day of the battle?
They can see us better.
Okay. Where were the Confederates the day before the battle? East, north,